Welcome into the River Radio Studios. I'm Rusty Hendricks, and we are joined here today by the head football coach of Southeast Missouri State, Tom Matukewicz, as we bring awareness and get ready for the Walk Together Men's Prayer Breakfast at the Show Me Center on Wednesday, September the 2nd. Doors open that morning at 6 a.m. with a program following from 6:30 a.m. to 7:45, and a special guest speaker joining us that day as well, and that's the governor of Missouri, Mike Kehoe. Coach Tuke, glad to have you with us today. How's everything going?
Well, I appreciate you having me on. No, it's going well, and it's hard to believe we're less than 2 weeks out from our first game. So it's been a good fall camp. We're been working hard, and certainly want to try to just get the word out about this event. This is our second annual prayer breakfast. Last year had about 600 or so.
Wow.
Guys show up, and so there certainly feels like there's a need. You know, I just feel like women do this way better than men. You know, we don't hang out together the way we should. It's always around an event, where this is just an opportunity to, fellowship with each other, but also hear some inspiring words. You know, it's not a feeling. It's pretty factual that in a lot of the major stats, men are struggling. And I think one of the answers to our men problem is other men. That's certainly the case in my life. I lived with my high school football coach, and he changed my life. If you look at Governor Kehoe's story, you might think, you know, he's a successful man and now he's a governor, and you might assume a lot of things. But when you really hear his story, it was other men in his life, not his family, that really had a huge impact to making Mike Kehoe the man he is today. And you're going to hear that story, which is going to be great. We're going to have pastors and some other speakers. It's just a great event. Time to get together. Doors open at 6 with breakfast. 6:30 to 7:45 will be the event.
Come hungry, right?
Yeah. Well, you don't have to take off work, get you out the door. Hopefully you can make it to work on time, and, spend a little time together.
You're a man of faith as well, Coach. How important is it to you, and are you going to be leading us in prayer that day? What do you think? Yeah,
absolutely. Faith is extremely important to me, and I'm not a pastor, so I'm going to get up there as your coach a little bit, but I don't know where I would be without faith. It was another man that taught me about faith. It wasn't my family, and so personally, I think it's important to every man and everybody here, obviously.
So tickets and registration, again, you can go to SEMORedHawks.com. It's $40 per person, $25 for students. You can have a table sponsorship available for $280. That's 8 people, or $150 for 8 students. We mentioned the keynote speaker of the Missouri Governor, Mike Kehoe, joining us that day as well. And again, the theme is called Walk Together. Can you bring us a little more insight into that note, why it's Walk Together here this year?
I just don't believe we're created to be alone, and I think when things happen, we isolate ourselves, and that's exactly the issue. And so I think what we have to do is we got to fight and resist that, and we got to do life together. And I said this last year. I know this will hurt some people's feelings, but if your wife's your BFF, that's a bad sign. There are some things you need to tell another man.
Yeah.
And so I think we need to prioritize that, and then we need to have some actions aligned with that priority.
So that kind of goes on with the theme. I assume that you want to preach to your football players that do life together, practice together, eat together, all that, and you want this team to really be a team, be a united front to help them this year, and that's a big part of it, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I think when you get old like me and you think back about football in your career, you'll miss the relationships then way more than you're going to miss anything else. And so I think we just need to be more intentional within our relationships.
So tell us a little bit more about camp. You said that it's going well.
Yeah.
Hopefully, knock on wood, injury-free. What are some of the things that you're really trying to work on, hit home with some of your guys?
Well, you hit it on the head with health. Last 2 seasons we've had extraordinarily amount of injuries, and so we just really tried to figure that piece out. We hired a new strength coach from Indiana. He brought a lot of science. We have GPS trackers on all of our players. And so we're really trying to make sure that we're avoiding injuries. And so far we haven't had any season-ending injuries this fall camp, so that's great. The team's coming together for 58 new players. It's pretty connected. You wouldn't know it. We spent a lot of time and effort working on relationships since January, and they're off to a good start. It's a good, tough schedule. I like our schedule, but it's also the first 3 on the road. When you're breaking in a new starting quarterback, there's a lot to that, and so it's going to be a challenging season. But there's a lot of energy. There's a lot of optimism around just about this year's team. One of the main issues the last 2 years has been our run game. Since I've been here, we usually were able to run it, and I did a poor job the last 2 years. So hopefully we can get that back. Probably one of our stronger depth units is our running backs, but they aren't blocking for themselves. So hopefully these O-line, we have 4 of the 5 starters back in the O-line.
It's huge.
So pretty veteran there, and hopefully we can open up a little more holes for those guys.
You mentioned, alluded to the quarterback, so is there a quarterback battle right now, or is that kind of set in stone? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, we're still 2 weeks out. There is a leader, but there's still lots of practices to go before it's official.
You mentioned the running game. That's a point of emphasis, in the offseason, and recruiting and just getting some of the guys back healthy. Brown, one of those guys, trying to get back for this year. So, obviously, it starts with the O-line and creating holes for the running backs. But how much, I guess, have you talked to your new offensive coordinator and trying to say, hey, our identity starts with running the football?
Yeah, when my offense coordinator left the Army, that really gave me an opportunity to kind of hit the pause button. When I got here, I knew exactly who we were going to be on defense, exactly who we were going to be on special teams, but I had always hired out my offense. So whoever I hired, that was the identity. I think that was a mistake looking back at it. That this is my identity. This is SEMO Football's identity. This is not it. So it doesn't matter who my coordinator is. This is who we're going to be, and we're going to bring them in. So when we hired Coach Boylan, he came from Mizzou. If you look at Mizzou, they've been able to run the ball on the SEC with probably not as good of players. So I think some of that scheme-wise, we're going to take advantage of and done a good job. And he's just a lot different. Most of the time, most of my hires, when I look at a coordinator, is leader first, and all these things. We're really now what football's turned into. He's kind of ChatGPT for football. He's elite mentally. Spent his life in a film room. He's probably not going to be an alpha male in too many rooms, but that's not what we need. We need somebody to put us in good football position to make plays and have answers when we're struggling and things like that. So he's off to a great start. Very happy with his progress and being able to get all the other coaches and players pulling on the same side of the rope on offense.
What about your defense? You lose some valuable guys from the defense from last year. Yeah. You do have some returners back, but what is the outlook for the defense this year?
We got a lot of shoes to fill. We've recruited well. I could tell, since we've been going against January, that we've done a good job bringing in some really talented guys. I think when you look at us historically, when we've been good in the secondary, we're really hard to score on, and this is by far our deepest secondary. And picked up a couple extra players. So I don't know if you're aware that the NCAA got sued, and then a judge said, hey, if you graduate in 22 and you didn't play 5 years, you only played 4, you get an extra year.
Yeah.
And so Jeremy Walton and Justice Johnson were 2 defensive players for us last year, 2 starters. Justice Johnson led us in interceptions. Jeremy Walton led us in sacks and TFLs. So very productive players that are now on our team. They're now awesome. Practicing. They're now going. So unless there's another lawsuit that changes, they will be playing for Indiana, playing for us against Indiana State. So you pick up 2 starters you had no idea that you were going to.
I do have to ask about this. Reports came out that McCoy Casey is no longer with the team. Can you shed any more light on that?
Yeah, football's going to end for all of us. Football's going to end for me. It ends for all players. It's not like golf and tennis. And just football ended for him. He was ready to put the cleats up. He's going to go start his life down in Texas. He was a great Red Hawk, and we're very appreciative of all his efforts.
All right, just again as we lead into the start of this season here in a couple of weeks, again talking about with Coach Tuke about the prayer breakfast. Again, it's called Walk Together Men's Prayer Breakfast, Wednesday, September the 2nd at the Show Me Center. Again, doors open at 6, and the program follows from 6:30 to 7:45. And again, $40 per person, $25 for students. So, Coach, just last thing, just as we look towards this season, what are a couple of things that you're looking at for this team to continue to get better at, continue to focus on as we get ready for the season?
In the next 10 days, it's just making sure we're in shape. I think you don't win the game in the first quarter, right? So in the fourth quarter to Indiana State, are we in better shape than they are? Are we able to do all the hard things it takes to win a fourth quarter game? And then I think consistency. We've put some good reps out there, some good film out there, but then there's been some bad in there too. And so we need to continue to rep our scheme to iron out all the kinks and the bugs.
All right, Coach, appreciate the time this morning.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. Big thanks to Tom Matukewicz once again for taking the time to join us and preview the upcoming season. Again, the first game starting against Indiana State on August the 29th on the road as the Redhawks look to bounce back from last season. Don't forget, you can listen all year long to Redhawks football on the Redhawks Radio Network. It's on Real Rock 99.3.